Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today, I want to talk to you about a very important topic that has always been in the news and continues to be in the news and continues to be in our lives and in the lives of many, many, many people. And that is racism. In particular, internalized racism. We had a very public incident recently where in my state of Georgia in the US, a young man named Ahmaud Arbery was jogging in his neighborhood and he was chased down by two white men and killed. He was 25 years old and he had his whole life ahead of him. And the men were not arrested for 2 months until the video of the event leaked and went viral across social media. And then many, many, many people wrote in and spoke up and protested and brought a lot of attention to this issue. And only then were the two men arrested. And so I want to talk about what it is that is keeping racism going, keeping racism alive. Because African Americans, Black families, our Black brothers, sisters are disproportionately asked to bear the burden of this when they didn't start the problem. They didn't start the fire. And you might be wondering what a brown Muslim man is doing talking about it when it's maybe from some people's perspective, this is a white and Black issue. You know, it's between them, you know, white people over there and Black people over there. It's their problem. What does it have to do with us? As brown people, as Muslims, what does it have to do with us? I want to start off by reading a verse from the Quran, because even the Quran has something to say about it. This is from the 30th surah of the Quran, the 30th chapter, verse 22. And of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the difference of your languages and colors. Surely here are signs for those of knowledge. Those who have knowledge. In the difference of your languages and colors are God's signs, are Allah's signs. Allah has manifested his creative signs by creating people who speak different languages and who are of different complexions. So brown is a sign of Allah. Black is a sign of Allah. Different shades in between are signs of Allah. Lighter skin, whiter skin is a sign of Allah. These are all signs in a spectrum of colors that Allah says in the Quran. These are signs. This is how I've created the world. I want you to learn something from this. I've put some wisdom and knowledge and deep meaning behind all of this. And so I want you to try to learn something from it. But instead of learning something from it, we are using it as an excuse for our inability to embrace each other, right? I'm brown. He's Black. he's white, he's Asian, he's this, he speaks Spanish, he's speaking Chinese, he's speaking Russian, he's speaking Swahili, he's speaking, whatever. And we use these things as excuses to create walls, to create barriers. When Allah is saying something very different, he's saying, I put in these differences for you to understand them as my signs. These are ayat of Allah. These are, like we say, these are verses of the Quran. These are ayat of the Quran. People's black skin is an ayah of the Quran. It is as holy as the verses of the Quran. People's skin color is as holy as the verses of the Quran. But we have this mindset that says, oh, look, she's so dark. She's so light. She's fair and lovely, right? We don't have dark and lovely. We have fair and lovely. In our own, South Asian community, we look at black people and we say all kinds of derogatory things about them amongst ourselves, kalu this and kalu that. And, we've got all this language. We aren't, white Americans in the South who enslaved, Africans who were brought here by force. And so we think that's something over there. That's something that happened over there. It has nothing to do with me. I'm free of all of it. But what I want to kind of pull out today is that we all have internalized racism. We have it in the Indian community. We look at, lighter skinned Indians and we, we look at darker skinned Indians and we kind of look at something in our mind that looks down on them, I've heard mothers say that I wish I had drank more milk so that my child would have been fairer skinned. I've heard this. It's not related. Like, you can't just drink something white and think you're going to have white kids. It doesn't work that way. So this is our internalized racism. We see certain colors as great to have and valuable, superior, elite. And we see other colors as, we look down and it's poor. It's less than, substandard, kind of uncivilized, undomesticated. We look down on it. But this is not what Allah is saying. Allah is saying, I created all these colors and I put my signs in them. I, Creator, put my signs, my wisdom, my knowledge, my expertise, my design into them. Are you learning? Are you seeing them as my ayah, as my ayat? Are you drawing the wisdom and lessons that I've put into them? And so our own internalized racism blocks us from fulfilling the meaning of that verse. It blocks us. And we have to take responsibility and say, I am going to investigate the layers of my own mind and heart and find the places in there that are still racist, that are still racially motivated, that are still looking at white as good and black as bad. This is part of our upbringing. This is part of our colonial inheritance. This is part of our conditioning of growing up and living and working in a primarily white culture, and this is part of, you know, the unconscious and uninvestigated life that we often have, where we are, you know, moving in the world thinking we're doing everything fine, but we are definitely making micro decisions, micro perceptions that say, white guy comes into my bank asking for a loan, and I'm, hey, how are you? And black guy comes into my bank and I'm asking for a loan, and I'm suspicious. I've got my my eyebrows squinched up, my brows furrowed like this. I'm suspicious of you. And, because we think the white man is good by default. He can do no wrong. We think the black man is a criminal from first glance. And not only is he going to do wrong, it would surprise us if he did right. It would surprise us if he was actually good, And then we say things to to each other like, oh, he's not like other black people. He's not like other black people. Because, what we say to ourselves is, black people are problematic, and there is a history of all this kind of behavior that we don't admire. But that's our internalized racism. There it is. When your son dates a black girl, how do you feel? Why do you feel like that? When your daughter dates a black man, how do you feel? And why do you feel like that? These are the layers of our internalized racism, right? Every human being on this earth is a creation of Allah. And Allah is telling us in the Quran, I made people with different skin colors and different languages to display my wisdom and my creativity and my status as a creator, showing his power and wisdom and abundance in the world. And so all of these things, all of these different colors of skins become signs of God, as gifts from God, as blessings from God. And so when we say, that black guy, what are we doing? What are we doing? So we have to investigate in our minds and in our hearts, what are the intentional and unintentional behaviors and thoughts and perceptions that we have that say, let's put black people on a lower category and let's put white people on an upper category. And let's make sure that we as brown people get as close as we can, as close as we possibly can, to getting a little piece of that white category. If I can just talk like them and lose my accent and dress like them and like the same things, then maybe they will help me get into their club. But those other black people, I don't want to be in their club at all. I don't want to talk like them. I don't want to dress like them. I don't want to be like them. I'm not interested in being in that club. I'm interested in being that white club, not that black club. Right? So we have this in our heads and in our hearts, and it is a poison. It is a poison. And you cannot pretend to be spiritual and be racist at the same time. You cannot do that. Because the fundamental thing about spirituality is truth, goodness, and beauty. It is not true. When we look down on Black people, we are not in a place of truth. We are definitely not in a place of goodness, and we are definitely not in a place of beauty. Racism is ugly. It is one of the ugliest things we've got on this earth and in our heads and in our hearts. And until we get in there and start, like you have like in the basement of your house, if you've got some water leakage issues, you've got standing water in the basement, and you'll have mold issues. You'll walk into your damp basement and there'll be just this smell, and it'll be terrible. And there'll be a real problem, because that mold is not just sitting, not just floating in your basement. It'll get on the wood, and then your wood will have a mold problem, and then it'll get into the foundation of your house, and then you got a real problem. Racism is like that. It is in the house of our minds and hearts, and it is a poison. And it is not a problem between whites and blacks in America. Okay? It has a long, dark history with slavery in this country, but everyone around the world has the virus of racism. And you have to actively test for it, locate it, apply treatments, antibiotics, antiviral, whatever it takes. The first step is always admitting that there is a problem, right? The second step is finding the places in your heart where, in your mind, where you are perceiving and acting in accordance with racial lines, in accordance with racist logic. When you look at, the friends that you have, when you look at birthday parties that you throw, or wedding parties that you throw, or picnics that you throw, and you look at those pictures, is everyone the same color as you? Or is everyone the same color as you and then white folks? Black folks are not there, right? Those are small micro decisions that you made to make sure that, we all make, to make sure that certain people are excluded from our lives, because we have already decided that they are not worthy. But other people, right? Oh, we have to have them because we look up to them. We want to be like them. And so there needs to be this investigative work. You have to become a detective. And there needs to be this investigative work for you to go into your mind and go into your heart, find all the places that are still looking at people because of the color of their skin and going, not in my circle. My special circle of close friends, you're not allowed. So we make these decisions. So when we see people who have dark skin, we've already decided they are not worthy. We've already decided. And this is just not God's plan. This is not the Quran's plan. The Prophet Muhammad spoke out against this kind of racist perception and behavior. And this is definitely not spiritual. It is not spiritual at all. It is a toxic, poisonous, deadening, not only to yourself, but to your family and to your larger community and to the world. It is deadening. It will it will kill all the other good things you're trying to do. And so you have to find the parts of yourself that have internalized this racism and start becoming aware of them, looking at them, and starting to remove them, transform them, turn them upside down, and question them and heal them so that your heart is wide open. And when you see a black brother and you see a black sister, you're like, you're my family. You're my family. If you get hurt, I hurt. If you get a paper cut, I get a paper cut. If you step on a nail, I step on a nail. If you get chased down while jogging in your neighborhood by white supremacists and you get killed, I get killed. It's like you've killed me. It's like you've killed my son. It's like you've killed my daughter. And I will not sit by and let this pass as something that, oh, it's too big for me, or it's not my problem. It's something between white and black people. You know, look at my skin. I'm brown. Not my problem. Not my problem. No thanks. I've got other problems. This is not one of them. This is one of them. Because in the Quran, as Muslims, we are not only taught to see colors as signs of Allah, we are taught to stand up for justice. We are taught that all human beings are our family. خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَفْسٍ وَحِيدَةٍ. He has made you all out of a single being. Every single black woman, man, and child on this earth is with you in that spiritual unity. And the moment you say, you're not invited to my heart, you break that unity and you will never understand true spiritual, just the true spiritual foundations and realities of the world. We will not understand that. We will not understand it as long as we say, this one group, you're out. Because Allah embraces everyone. Allah includes everyone. Allah created everyone. Allah helps everyone. Allah loves everyone. And so we too must care for everyone, love everyone, and support and serve everyone. And right now, because of global racism, because of the generational impact and trauma of slavery, black people have had the worst time, the worst impact, the worst generational just such a large wound from this. They need us to step in and do something. They need us to step in and do something to stand up for justice, to stand up for unity, to stand up for seeing black as something good, to see something beautiful, to see something true. And you cannot be spiritual and religious and say you're a Muslim and not take this on fully. You cannot do it without taking this on fully. It is one of the struggles of our lives. It is one of our jihads to stand up for black communities all around the world and to say, I stand with you as your brother, as your sister, as your family member. Your pleasure is my pleasure. Your pain is my pain. When you get excluded, I am going to do something about this. I will not stand aside. I will not pretend it's not my problem. I'm going to do something about this. And we have to do that as Muslims, as human beings, as family members of every black woman, man, and child on earth. We have to stand up. We have to break the whole systemic racist structure down. We have to create a society of unity. We have to create a society of equal representation. We have to create a society that sees black as good, true, and beautiful. Because if you can't see black as true, good, and beautiful, then it doesn't matter. it doesn't matter. Then you've kind of gone back into brown tribe. Or you are brown tribe looking up to white tribe, hoping to get a little membership card into white tribe because, you know, they have the status and the money. And what's that about? So I really want to emphasize this. Spirituality is looking at the truth, even when it's difficult. And our own internalized racism is one of the most difficult truths that lives in us, but we don't do anything about it, so it continues to operate and hurt Black communities. There's a lot of literature around this. There's a lot of blog posts around this. Just Google, what can I do to be an ally? What can I do to investigate and overturn my own internalized racism? What can I do to be a better ally to my Black sisters and brothers and my Black family who have been so severely impacted, not just by global racism, but by the generational trauma of slavery and all the dark stuff that happened after slavery? So I beseech you, please join me in investigating and overturning our internalized racism.